What is going on today, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Fix It Garage. Today we were supposed to be working on the Volkswagen. Unfortunately, we're not going to be doing that today. But I can show you guys some of the new parts that have arrived for this car that we're going to be installing here very shortly. All right, guys, so up first we have a new fuel filter. I actually have two filters. I have this style, which I will show you guys right now, is a big canister filter. Picked this up. I also picked up a small one that is like what you would see on a traditional air-cooled Volkswagen. So we have one of each depending on how this fuel is, and depending on how well the fuel system is, we can run this guy or we'll run the smaller one. We'll see. We also have a brand new Bosch fuel pump. This is out of a Volkswagen, I don't remember. Oh well. But yeah, a nice Bosch fuel pump. I'm gonna have to change the size on my fuel lines because as you guys can see, this side has a bigger fitting on it than the other side, so we're gonna have to make some adjustments to our fuel system, which I'll talk about when the fuel lines actually get here. Speaking of fuel lines, that is one of the parts that has not shown up yet, which we kind of need because we need to change the fuel lines from the tank all the way to the front of the car. I'm also waiting on a T-fitting for the return system so I can have it come out of the fuel rail, the return side of the fuel system, and basically tee back in right behind the fuel filter and fuel pump, so then it just can be a nice short path. Because I think I'm gonna mount these two guys on that firewall of the Subaru, of the Volkswagen. But I still haven't quite figured out exactly where I want to put the pumps, but that's one of the ideas I'm playing with. Next up, you guys have already seen this. It is our new coolant crossover pipe, which I've now marked where we need to cut it to make it fit correctly in the Volkswagen. I still need to buy some plugs for this. I'm not gonna worry about that till final assembly and install. We will pick those up at a local hardware store and probably just gasket them in. We also have the new coolant pipe that is going to be used. This goes in down by the thermostat housing. They leave this here for a heater. Again, as you can see, I have marked this pipe. We're gonna cut it and we're gonna weld it. Well, I'm gonna have a friend weld it shut so coolant no longer can go this way. It'll just go through here into the crossover and then into the throttle body for the idle air control system. Trying to keep this a little bit more simplistic. We're not gonna have a heater, so this is how we're going to fix this part so we have less stuff. And this will also help close up and create a loop for the coolant to flow. Next up, from Busaru, we have the vehicle speed sensor kit. So from my reading, my ECU, I need to run a vehicle speed sensor for the ECU to know how fast the vehicle is going. The car obviously is run off of the left front wheel for the speedo, but this is to tell the Subaru computer just how fast the vehicle is going with very easy instructions from Busaru on how to install it. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use this during final install with our ECU wiring to allow us to monitor, not only record vehicle speed on the Subaru DLC that we're gonna keep, but also so the PCM can see the vehicle speed. Up next, from American Auto Wire, we have the 1962 to 1974 Beetle Wire Harness Kit. This thing is pretty cool. So in here, we have everything that we need to rewire the factory Volkswagen wiring, including a brand new fuse block that looks way nicer than the original one, and all of the wiring and all of the pins and clips that I'm gonna need to make. All the harnesses are nice because if you look, they're labeled, like here's the Volkswagen turn signal kit with turn signal relays. So they actually did a really good job labeling this harness and having everything in each bag that I need to get that system up and running. This should make wiring the Volkswagen body harness, as we're gonna call it, pretty simple. So this should make wiring the body portion of the harness that I need pretty easy. It's not gonna be super easy. I still have to do a bunch of work, but this should make it a little bit easier to understand than thinning through old factory Subaru harnesses.
Got him!
So We'll make a video on this when the time comes. We're not gonna do this harness until the engine is back out of the car and I've got more room to work because I need to do some cutting and modifications and removal of wire. So this is all gonna happen once the engine comes back out and all the fabrication and mock-up is done. So we'll look forward to a video on this thing here in the future. So up next, guys, we have a radiator. It's an aluminum radiator that I picked up off of eBay for not super expensive. As you guys can see looking at these, this one's a little bent. But I'm not worried about it because we're gonna be removing both of these. We're actually bolting it with these studs that are welded on here. There's actually 4 more on the other side. I will show you guys in a video coming up soon how exactly we're gonna mount this in the car. One big change we're making, instead of mounting it traditionally, which would be this way, and this would be the drain, we're actually mounting it upside down, and this is going to be the fill. I also need to have this hole capped, and this will actually be our new drain. I'll figure out a way to make that work. So yeah, this is the new radiator. Pretty average quality. So the way that we can make it so this guy right here can be used as a fill is actually with this. So this is another nifty little part from Busaru. It's a radiator fill and it goes right into the drain, the old drain. So you can put in like that and you now have a fill and you have an overflow. So you can run a traditional overflow tank like what you would see on a Subaru and not a swirl pot or a pressurized overflow like Volkswagen, a newer Volkswagen would run. Obviously this one had nothing. This radiator is for an old Golf is what it would normally go in. I figured this out through watching other YouTube videos and measuring, and I figured out that this radiator will fit pretty perfectly once we cut the front end apart, which will actually be the next video. We're gonna cut the front end off on it. So these two parts kind of go together. This was off of eBay. This is another part from Busaru. I'm gonna link his business in the description below. He makes a lot of really good parts for these swaps, including he'll do wire harnesses, which I'll be honest, right this minute, kind of wishing I went with his harness, but you know, lesson learned, probably would do that in the next time if I did another one of these someday. All right, guys, last part that we have that showed up for right now isn't this intake. I've got like 5 intakes for this car, and I've got a bunch of throttle bodies. Ignore the fact that it's not bolted in. It's also on upside down. Like, we'll just ignore this thing for right now. It's actually this piece right here. This is a throttle body reverser, again, from Busaru. So with the way the intake sits in the car, this end would be right up against the firewall, and there's not enough room to run a throttle body, your mass airflow sensor, and your air filter. So they make this, which flips it the other way. So now it's going towards the back of the car, which will allow me to run a hose off of this to one side and put my mass airflow sensor and my air filter on it. This is going to make it a lot easier. It also, when I have the throttle body mounted the correct way, which right now it is upside down, the throttle linkage will be over here, and I can actually make the stock Volkswagen throttle cable work with the throttle linkage, so we'll have a good throttle on this car. So things like this make a huge difference in getting this job done. So again, Busaru, this is one of the parts that they sell and make. Another really quality part. I just need to get the right bolts for it to bolt it into place, and a couple of throttle body gaskets and some nuts to hold the back end of these bolts on. So this is going to be going on during final assembly. Also, this probably will be the intake that we use because this one has a lot of the stuff on the EGR system and all those things already blocked off and plugged. With how old this vehicle is, we don't need to run a lot of that stuff. It might make the ECU mad, but I might also plug the systems in and just hide them and tuck them in somewhere so the car at least is happy that they're there to maybe keep it out of limp mode a little bit longer. We'll see how that goes. We'll cross that bridge when we get there. For now though, we have this setup done. This is gonna be, this looks really cool. We'll probably paint the throttle body. We're definitely gonna repaint this intake because this red is actually flaking off quite badly. So we're gonna go ahead and clean it and repaint it. But that is the last of the new parts that have shown up so far. I'm still waiting on the fuel lines, all new fuel lines from the tank all the way back, also from the filler neck to the tank, all the vacuum lines around the tank. We're still waiting for all of that. I'm waiting for the raw metal to show up for the coolant lines, the radiator brackets, all of that I'm still waiting on. I don't need those things to start mocking up the car though, so next time we will start cutting. We'll start cutting the front end apart to mount the radiator. We'll start cutting pipes to make them fit in the car better. And we're gonna start doing more mock-ups so we can start figuring out a few more things about this car so we can get this closer to running. I still feel like we're not super far away from pulling the engine back out and doing our final assembly, but we'll see. Still hoping to not have this thing apart for much longer. I would really like to get this thing running and get it out of my garage so I can start more projects. It's cool to have it in here, but I would like to be able to do some other stuff. I'd also like to be able to park one of my other cars back in here. And I would like to be able to also bring my new tow rig in and show you guys it, but I'm not gonna do that until this thing is done. So you guys are gonna have to wait to see the new tow rig. So we're gonna start hammering on this. I do have a race, an autocross event about a week from now when you guys are seeing this. So we're gonna have to obviously go do that again up in Packwood. I'm gonna try to, vlog more of the trip instead of just the track day, and I'll try to bring more voicing and talking to it since I know you guys like that. So that is the plan going forward. We're gonna start hammering on this a lot. Actually, as soon as this video is done, I'm probably gonna get back to work on it. With that being said, guys, I wanna thank all of you guys for watching and putting up with these talking videos. I know they're not exciting because I'm not wrenching. Wrenching's coming back. You guys saw the Volkswagen build. Well, now it's time to get back on my Volkswagen build. So we're gonna start wrenching again, guys, don't you worry. But thank all of you guys. I wanna thank all of you guys for watching and supporting the channel when I'm not putting out the quality content that I wanna be bringing you guys. If you guys like what you saw and you like all these new parts, please don't forget to smash that like button. I'm excited to put this together. Hopefully you guys are excited to see all these parts end up on the car. And to make sure you guys don't miss any of this project coming together now that I have parts, don't forget to subscribe if you're not already. This project's gonna start to kind of move forward a little bit quicker, hopefully. We'll see. And you guys aren't gonna wanna miss anything because once this thing's done and gone, hopefully it doesn't come back again anytime soon. So thank you guys all for watching, and I will see you guys in the next one.